1938, Sydney, Australia. 18-year-old Jean Lee dreams of a perfect family.
There's £2 down the drain.
What? You're gambling and we've got a baby coming in less than a month?
Quit your gambling, woman.
But when she marries the wrong man, her life starts to take a tough path.
Get a job!
Shut up! You shut up!
She defied the family and married a 23-year-old wharf labourer. Family didn't approve, and he was pretty much a no-hoper.
I'll bash your head.
Out of all the boys in the world that Jean could have been involved with, she chose the baddest one.
Get out!
I'm not coming back.
When Raymond walks out, he leaves Jean holding the baby.
Raymond!
She is bitter and destitute.
Being left as a single mother leaves her in financial stress. There's not, for example, welfare support in the way that we'd know it now. There's also social embarrassment. And she is probably feeling fairly alone.
After 3 years, Jean can't cope. She decides to leave daughter Jillian with Grandma.
Hi, Mum.
For good.
Mum, I need you to look after Jillian for me, okay?
You can't be serious.
Please do this for me. I can't cope.
You have to cope. You have to cope,
I
love.
can't, Mum, please. She's better off with you, okay?
The mother brings up the grandchild really as her own daughter.
The Second World War begins. Jean decides to take advantage of the influx of troops.
You have the arrival of hundreds of thousands of American servicemen into Sydney, where she lived. There were different opportunities to make money.
Cashing in on her good looks, she turns to prostitution.
She was tall and had red hair, and she was very beautiful and used to wear lovely makeup and dressed well.
In just a few years, Jean Lee is a changed woman.
Her lifestyle shifts. She's drinking, she's associating with known criminals.
She takes a second job as a barmaid and meets another bad boy, 29-year-old Robert Clayton.
Robert Clayton is really the start of her association into more serious crime. And he's quite a skilled con man. He certainly has a bad temper and is fairly violent.
Would you like another one?
Tell you what, drinks are on me if you can choose which cup the coin is under.
Well, I'm gonna go to bed.
All right. Ready to do?
Like Jean, he is also a user of men, and they hit it off.
Jean was on a pattern of hooking up with guys who were not good for her.
Hey, Jean, I'm Robert.
Robert teaches her the tricks of his trade. They become partners in crime.
He could be described as her pimp. She works with him over the next few years in a series of scams or cons.
Haven't seen you before.
I'm a new boy in town.
They perfect a sex extortion scam known as the Badger Game. Jean puts her good looks to bad use.
Jean, looking very glamorous, would strike up a conversation with a man.
She'll entice him with a few more drinks, lure him back to her room, get him in a compromising position.
Do you have this much fun in Sydney?
Clayton would bust into the room and would demand money.
What the bloody hell's going on here?
This is my bedroom. This is my wife.
Clayton often pretended he was the wronged husband.
I didn't know she was married to you. Shut up.
So what they were doing was really a form, I suppose, of blackmail.
What do you want? I got a wife and kids are free. Take this.
What are you guys?
Please don't tell my wife, please.
What else you got?
This is a scam. Shut up.
Get him out of here.
Come on.
If Jean had any self-respect from her childhood, any traces of it were completely gone when she started playing the Badger game.
So what's happening?
November 1949. Jean and Robert travel south to Melbourne and team up with fellow swindler, Norman Andrews.
She goes up and...
The trio plan to play the Badger game on cashed-up gamblers in the city for the country's biggest horse race.
Spring Carnival is the big racing event held in Melbourne, and there's lots and lots of people with lots and lots of money, and very attractive for swindlers.
You just got to find the right bloke, you know? Not too small, not too big, pocket full of money. Yeah, once you get them in there, you go, exactly right, mate, exactly right.
73-year-old William Pop Kent seems like the perfect target.
Here he is.
Pop William Kent, he was an SP bookie, and he owned a boarding house, and he'd pull out a roll of notes and peel them off and buy everyone a drink. He was a pretty obvious mark for the Badger game.
I'm Jean. Interesting name.
Pop loves the women and falls for Jean's charms.
Have you had a good day, Pop?
He was very, very keen and interested. He wasn't married. He didn't have anyone to make any excuses to.
This man is a funny man.
Here's the bomb.
Last drinks, everyone.
When the bar closes, Pop wants to carry on drinking with his new admirer.
Well, why don't you come back to my place and we'll finish up, okay?
Sounds good to me.
But Jean Lee has other plans.
To think that a woman would take part in something as evil and as violent and as awful as that was just unimaginable.
November 7th, 1949, Melbourne, Australia. Con artist Jean Lee has lured unsuspecting bookmaker William Pop Kent back to his home.
You all right, Pops? Yeah, good luck.
She plans to steal his cash in a sex scam called the Badger Game.
The intention is that she'll get him in a compromising position, get money from him.
All right, Pops, we gotta go.
Her fellow crooks, Robert Clayton and Norman Andrews, leave so Jean can get down to business.
Jean Lee was trying to get his money out of his trouser pocket.
Hey, good job.
After years of abuse at the hands of men, Pop Kent's words are the final straw.
Call me a whore.
Year upon year of demeaning and immoral behavior took its toll on Jean.
I couldn't get the money to Sweetways, so we're gonna have to do him over.
Her accomplices return to a Badger game gone wrong.
They believe he's hidden some of his betting winnings somewhere in the room. They weren't going to give up until he handed over the money.
Jean instigated it. She took the laces out of his shoes and tied his thumbs together.
No money.
Hold still, Pop! Where's the rest of the money?
A very brutal scene follows where they are in the room for some hours, drinking, torturing Pop Kent to try and see where he's hidden money.
Their arrogance will be their downfall.
Cheers, cheers.
They had acknowledged other people within the boarding house, so they were never going to get away with it. Within 24 hours, They were found in a room, still covered in Pop's blood.
All three face the death penalty. But in Australia at the time, it is rare to execute a woman.
No woman had been hanged in Victoria, in Melbourne, for almost 60 years. So the idea of a woman being sentenced to death is really almost outside living memory. And that also adds to the sensational nature of the crime.
Jean Lee thinks her sex will spare her from the hangman's noose, and she confesses.
Her confession, done to protect Robert Clayton, was on the grounds that she thought as a woman she would be treated more leniently.
But it is a brutal murder of a much-loved old man.
There's a long and very dramatic trial. This attracts huge amounts of media attention. Because having a woman involved, it is shocking.
Jean Lee's confession backfires. She is found guilty of murder and sentenced to death.
She moaned when the verdicts were handed down, and she believed that a woman wouldn't be sentenced to death.
February 19th, 1951. 31-year-old Jean Lee is hanged at Pentridge Prison, Melbourne, Australia.
She liked being a bad girl. The only person that put that hangman's noose around Jean's neck was Jean.
2 hours later, Robert Clayton and Norman Andrews suffer the same fate. In a twist, Jean's death helps keep future deadly Australian women alive.
Her execution ultimately serves to forward the cause against the death penalty.
There was a general consensus of opinion that hanging Jean Lee was extreme and that her sentence should have been reduced to life imprisonment.
Jean Lee goes down in history as the last woman to be hanged in Australia.
Jean was not a natural-born killer. She did not have an abusive upbringing. But she chose a path that led her to murder.
It's the spring of 1998. In the seaside city of Perth, Western Australia, where young love is on the rocks.
Why won't you talk to me?
I'm done talking. All we do is talk.
The least you can do is give me an explanation.
You're too possessive. You go crazy over any girl I...
19-year-old Mike breaks up with his girlfriend,
Because I love you.
18-year-old Kelly Fuller.
No, Kelly. I can't do this.
He had left her because she was too possessive.
You go crazy over...
She
any girl I
had
even
trouble,
want.
obviously, accepting that it was over.
It's over.
Don't say that, it's not over.
But Kelly has a weakness, a possessive nature.
It's not over.
She was always needing to be the centre of some big drama and attracting sympathy and those sorts of things.
I can't live without you.
Kelly is known for her demanding nature.
Crazy bitch.
When a rageful person destroys their lover's property, it's a sign that things could get worse. For me, I'd get out of town.
wanting a quieter life, Mike Bloom moves on.
This is supposed to be the cutest snack club I've ever seen.
To 15-year-old Jessica Lang, a carefree, down-to-earth girl.
I'll get you for that.
That's what I'm hoping.
The snaps.
He was the DJ at the roller skating rink, and she had a job in the cafe there, so they got to know each other that way.
But Mike's flirting attracts unwanted scrutiny from his ex.
When she realised that he'd begun to see Jessica, that seemed to make her want him back more.
Mike, please answer the phone. Answer the phone. Answer the phone!
She was enraged,
Just answer the phone!
and she was not willing to accept it.
I think Kelly had a neurotic need to be desired and loved by boys.
Answer the phone! I know you're there!
That maybe Mick might just be a blip on the radar screen of her life. For Kelly, it was all right now, all-consuming. There was no future without Mick.
What Kelly doesn't know is Jessica isn't actually a rival at all.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, honey, what are you up to?
Guess what?
What?
I got the hairdressing apprenticeship.
She is more interested in her new apprenticeship than any boyfriend.
So, does that mean I get free cakes from now on?
We'll see.
She was thinking about hairdressing, partying, family, all those things that are important to a 15-year-old teenager, not the last girlfriend.
So they all went to the movies last night with my friends and no one even invited me. Did Janet go? Oh, yeah, Janet
But
went.
Kelly's only interested in Jessica,
It wasn't even enough for her to take my boyfriend.
the girl who stands in the way of her deepest desire, Mike.
Hey, there they are.
She was determined to get him back, and she got it fixed in her mind that if she got Jessica out of the picture, then he would be hers.
That stupid bitch. I'll kill her.
It's unfortunate that none of Kelly's friends took her seriously when she said she wanted to kill Jessica. Sadly, no one did anything about it.
She's a child. You're a child and you're a slut. Come here. Your shorts are a little bit short, sweetie. Slut.
Teenage breakups are painful and common.
You have slut written on your head. Don't ignore me.
Eventually, most people move on.
I came here to talk to you.
But in Perth, Western Australia, in September 1998, it won't end that way.
It's just a normal spring day in Perth. Nobody except whatever was going on in the mind of Kelly Fuller had any idea that it was going to be a different day to the day before.
Kelly Fuller has lost her boyfriend and blames 15-year-old Jessica Lang.
Hi, do you have a minute?
No, I don't have a minute for you.
Oh, because I really just wanted to talk.
She wore white gloves. Now, this was a hot, steamy, stormy afternoon. You wouldn't wear a long-sleeve shirt, let alone a pair of gloves.
Jessica is home alone, but has no fear of Kelly until it is too late.
Is that a hickey?
Yeah.
Kelly was in a great deal of pain, emotional and psychic pain.
That's disgusting. I would never let him do that to me.
Yeah? Well, he never loved you anyway.
She was destroying the source of the pain. Or so she thought.
What are you doing?
Oh my God! What are you doing? Don't!
If you were to just stop for a moment and imagine what it would be like to physically stab someone 47 times. That is an extraordinary act. Jessica was 15. She was still a child.
Kelly goes home, cleans up, and returns to the scene.
She tried to cover her tracks. She broke a back window to make it look like a burglary gone wrong.
Next, she ditches the murder weapon, but makes the mistake of including a friend.
What are you doing with that?
Getting rid of it.
Getting rid of it?
Yeah. I'm gonna go and put it down the drain.
Why?
When teenagers commit murder, they usually get caught rather quickly.
Jess!
It's because they lack the sophistication and experience with life and knowledge to get away with as serious a crime as murder.
When Jessica's father discovers the bloody scene, it doesn't take long for Kelly's friend to put 2 and 2 together.
I know who killed Jessica Lang. It was Kelly Fuller.
One of Kelly's friends rang the police and said, "I know who's done this because I helped her dispose of the knife."
She rolled it up in a tea towel and threw it down the drain.
Do you know where this drain is?
Yes, I can show you.
It was pretty quickly after that that they took her into custody.
In February 2000, Kelly Fuller is convicted of murder and sentenced to life with a minimum of 11 years.
11 years is all Kelly Fuller has to pay for taking the life of a young 15-year-old with her whole life in front of her. She wasn't a friend, she wasn't an enemy, she was just a young woman who had something Kelly thought she wanted.
What Kelly did at a very, very early point in her life does not bode well for her future. Kelly's right where she needs to be. She needs to be in prison so that society can be safe from her. Sad, but true.
1998, the military town of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Hey, baby.
Troubled teenager Christina Walters has been living here with her grandparents for 5 years.
Christina, where have you been?
With friends.
Christina, you are too young to be running around with them people.
Those people the only family that I got.
Her mother had a lot of health issues. Her stepfather is out of the picture at that point.
But the move hasn't settled the young single mom.
I want you out of here.
Christina, I don't like the person you're becoming.
Oh, well, I don't like you much either. So I want you to get out because I want to spend some time with my son. Now go!
With her grandparents came a whole different set. They were very old school and didn't really understand.
And Christina has another family she'd rather belong to, where obedience and loyalty is mandatory.
Real pleased to see you, Tamika. So how about we do some bonding tonight, eh? How you feel about that?
One of America's largest gangs, the Crips.
You can't just walk into my...
It's hard for people to understand why a child, a young person, would choose a gang family over their own family. But the gang family offers them something their own family doesn't.
You gotta earn your place.
Gangs are an addiction.
Christina proves to be an outstanding addition to her new family.
She was very good at organizing. She knew how to control people. She knew how to calm people down, which is very important, of course. She knew how to hype them up.
In a man's world, Christina Walters defies all the odds to rise up the ranks. By the age of 20, Christina becomes a gang leader.
It is very rare for a female or a woman to become any kind of leadership position because gangs are a male-dominated society. She was true gangster, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, all right.
Now in control, Christina has to prove her power and dominance. She has to earn the ultimate gang symbol, a tattoo of death.
A tattoo is a teardrop that they have tattooed under one of their eye, which indicates that they have killed.
But before Christina can hunt, the gang's rituals must be carried out.
They had purchased ammunition and fingernail polish, blue fingernail polish. They then coated the tips of the bullets with blue. All Crips utilize the color blue as their symbol. So the color is a very important thing. It's the symbol of their nation.
When the bizarre ceremony is over, Christina and her new recruits are ready.
My man, your gun. Okay, let's go. What are you waiting for?
A gang initiation serves many purposes. It solidifies the position of the people in the gang. They're now bonded together. They're brothers and sisters in crime.
In August 1998, Christina will take her first blood. Anyone will do. It's midnight. The streets are almost empty. Then they spot store manager Deborah Cheeseborough. They kidnap her, forcing her into the trunk of her own car. Trapped and terrified, Deborah awaits her fate.
We're gonna kill this bitch. We're gonna kill this bitch.
They needed a sacrificial lamb. This is a ritualistic type of operation. It's a bonding. And so, as they say, they could.
Psyched for a kill, Christina leads the gang to a desolate lake near Fort Bragg. Teenagers hungry for death surround Deborah.
The begging and pleading of the victims to not be shot, to please don't kill us, please let us live, only fueled Christina's fire to kill them.
Christine began shooting her, and the weapon jammed. At that point, Christine had the opportunity to stop, but instead, she basically cleared the weapon, recharged it, and continued shooting.
Christina shoots Deborah 8 times. She doesn't shed a tear. She earns one.
Let's get out of here!
They went back to Christina's house, and they were talking about, oh, how much fun it was that they had killed this woman.
Oh, did you see the look on her face?
Yeah, please don't hesitate. My baby got no fear.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
She was the anointed one. She solidified her position in the group as someone who could hurt you.
I've earned my tears.
Still high from the twisted thrill of killing, Christina is out for more blood.
Yeah, that's right.
And she has deadly soldiers willing to obey her orders.
So you're gonna go back out there and you're gonna whack someone.
They know what Christina is capable of. If she can do that to a total stranger, what might she do to me? On the night of August 16th, 1998, in Fayetteville, North Carolina,
I've earned my tears.
a vicious female gang leader makes her first kill, earning herself the Crips teardrop.
Oh, you man enough?
Baby, you know I'm man enough.
Okay, we'll prove it.
Now it's time for Christina Walters' recruits to follow suit.
You too, Paco. You man enough?
This is going to solidify them as a group because think about it. If you have something as vile as a murder or a double murder and you do it as a group, it's going to be very powerful and very bonding.
They hunt around town and see 2 women driving home from a night shift.
Ah, that's a dead-end street. We got him.
Oh, block him off, block him off.
When Tracy Lambert and Susan Moore turn, their car is cut off.
And the girls have gotten out of the car to see what's going on.
What the hell? Okay, let's go. We got him.
Guys, you're blocking us in.
What the hell? Move your head back.
And when they realized what was happening, they started begging, look, you can take my car, you can take my money, you can have whatever, just please don't hurt me. And of course, they were forced into the trunk at that point, at that location.
The women are taken on a 20-minute drive to the outskirts of town.
They took the females out of the trunk of the vehicle. The whole time they're begging for their lives, please don't shoot me, please don't kill me, please don't shoot me, please don't kill me.
Shut up! Sit back there! Get back there!
Shut up! Shut up!
Shut up!
Stand there! On your knees, bitch! Sit there! On your knees, bitch!
Gang member Eric Queen shows no mercy. He also wants the gang's ultimate mark of respect, a tattoo of death, a teardrop.
These crimes look very senseless to us, looking on the outside in. But to them, to the gang members, to Christina, they made all the sense in the world.
That's your turn, Paco.
These crimes solidified the position of these gang members.
Take her down, Paco.
Then, under the watchful eye of his leader, Francisco Torrado raises a gun to Susan Moore. Another life, another tattoo.
Yeah, that's it, Paco. You did a good job there.
If there were any gang initiates that night who thought perhaps we shouldn't do this, they couldn't have possibly spoken up. Had they decided to stop it, they would have been killed.
The next day, the gang heads to Myrtle Beach to lay low.
There was a hotel down there that a lot of gang members used.
3 women have been shot and dumped. But miraculously, one is alive.
They thought I was dead.
Christina's first victim, Deborah Cheeseborough, shot 8 times, survives.
I felt the blood oozing out my holes. I was on the ground. My right hand was up by my head. That was the last shot, and that shot went through the lens of my glasses.
Deborah musters all her strength to crawl to the road.
I figured if I stop, even if I slept, if I rest, that no one's gonna find me. I could not do that to my family. I could not put them through me dying.
Despite the secluded location, Deborah is rescued by a passerby.
In the back of my mind, I always, knew I wasn't gonna die.
She had a special angel watching over her that night for her to survive.
With Deborah's statement, police soon arrest 9 members of the gang. But it's clear one person is behind the cold-blooded murders.
I don't think it's an accident that the victims chosen that night by Christina were all women. Women either meant absolutely zero to Christina, or she chose women because she wanted these strangers to pay for the sins of a different woman.
In 1999, Christina Walters is convicted of first-degree murder.
I think the only person that might be safe from Christina would be the alpha male gang member. And if I were him, I wouldn't turn my back.
Gang members Francisco Tirado and Eric Queen are also found guilty of murder and are serving life sentences. Christina, the Queen of the Crips, receives the death penalty. She still awaits her execution. And Deborah Cheeseborough still waits for justice.
She had planned on being there for me to be executed. I would like to be at her execution. If not for me, for Susan and Tracy, she needs to be executed.
A lover losing interest can be hard to accept.
She was just over being harassed by an ex-boyfriend.
But overstaying your welcome can have fatal consequences.
This was a heartless crime with no passion involved at all. (1989) in the tiny country town of Meerbu North, Victoria, Australia. Paul Snable and Karen Randall's relationship is running hot and cold.
I gotta go.
Karen, stay.
She kept taking him back and then dumping him again and taking him back and dumping him again.
This time it will be different, I promise.
You said that every time. It's the same thing, always.
The conflict in the relationship was there from the outset.
Paul was a typical sort of country lad, a bit rough around the edges. He was a nice bloke who reacted badly when he was on drugs.
Karen, you're making a really big deal out of nothing.
Yeah, well, I don't agree. I think it's actually quite serious. Why are you taking...
When he is high, Paul loses control of his temper. He crosses the line, becoming a violent abuser.
Karen, I'm not doing anything.
He would push her around and abuse her and things like that.
There was certainly a history there of violence. We know for a fact that there had been intervention orders taken out by Karen against Paul.
Karen decides to make a clean break from Paul, and with her son, moves to another town.
He wasn't actually supposed to know where she lived.
But lovesick Paul can't let go. In an attempt to find Karen, he takes drastic action.
He did follow her young son home from school one day, and he did turn up at the new place that she'd moved to.
And Paul leaves a message that Karen takes as a threat.
And left a card under the door with words on it, "You make me see red." So that upset Karen and also caused concern for her immediate friends.
I think that was what triggered her ridiculous overreaction to the situation, as she called it, the Paul situation.
He's ruining my life. I mean, he seriously frightens me. I just don't know what he's going to do next. He followed little Jimmy home from school the other day. Everywhere
Karen turns to her sister Donna and her girlfriends for advice.
In the view of other people who she was confiding in, amounted to a constant harassment that Paul was exposing her to.
This cake smells divine.
Gorgeous, beautiful.
Over tea and cake, the women discuss the problem.
They started talking about dealing with the Paul situation.
We should have his legs broken.
Which was a number of scenarios.
There was a suggestion at one stage there to tie him to a tree and kneecap him.
You inject him with battery acid.
And that's what I'm talking about. No, that's actually a really good idea.
They come up with a solution.
Do some shots.
Murder.
You can lace his needle with some battery acid.
Kill him. Have a heart attack.
Yeah, that's the final solution we're looking for.
One woman is particularly interested in putting their plan into action. Irene Maslin.
Some residents of the town described her as a real Charles Manson. They were frightened of her.
She struck fear into most people's minds who met her. She had an aura and a manner about her that was quite intimidating.
Irene Maslin was the epitome of an alpha female. She ruled the clan.
So, you said?
Yeah.
Irene knows how to deal with troublemakers. She is a local drug dealer. Her business thrives on intimidation.
She'd been seen to associate with what were described as heavy hitters in the drug trade.
What happens next will shock a small town to its core. At an isolated farmhouse in country Victoria, Australia, friends gather for a weekend visit. Among them, Paul Snable, here to see his ex-girlfriend, Karen. But his reception is tense.
He was still thinking, what's going on here? Why am I here? Why did Karen ask me here and she's ignoring me?
Karen's not interested in rekindling the relationship. She wants it to end, once and for all, at the urging of her friend, Irene.
It was Irene that put murder on the table. She wanted to kill someone, and she wanted other people to do it with her.
After several hours, it's time for this dealer to strike. Paul is always ready for a hit of speed.
Nothing happened. He went for a walk, he got on his motorbike, he rode around the paddocks, he did all sorts of things. He was still going, he was on speed.
I can't believe he's still running around out there. What's going on?
I don't know. We're going to have to do something to finish him off.
Irene is determined Paul must die. Time for Plan B.
Nothing about hitting him over the head with a brick's going to stop this guy.
Good idea. Going to need the men to do this. Go and ring Ian.
No. This is going to get messy. Let's go.
Ian Gillen, who was a person who hadn't been party to the original discussion.
Mr. Paul.
Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
A simple young man. He was terrified of Irene. He'd seen Irene in rages.
We've got to do something about him.
Irene orders Ian to kill Paul, a man he barely knows.
Irene Maslin requested him to hit Paul Snable over the head with a baseball bat.
Just crack him over the back of the head.
He approached Paul from behind, and being left-handed, he struck Paul from behind to the left side of his skull.
Paul just fell unconscious and bleeding.
And there was a lot of blood. Paul started moaning and groaning, and then hit him once or at least twice again.
Poor Ian Gillan, whose only involvement in it was out of fear. He honestly thought in that moment that if he didn't do what Irene told him to do, that she'd take the bat to him.
Crikey, he's still moving.
Incredibly, Paul is still alive.
He was still breathing. He was twitching.
Paul Snable has been injected with battery acid and bludgeoned with a baseball bat, but he's hanging on to life. Irene Maslin has had enough. Time for Plan C.
Irene Maslin then got a plastic bag and put the plastic bag over Paul's head and secured it around his neck with a rubber band.
No one deserves to die like he did.
A number of them then sat and listened and watched as he gasped his last breath.
In the aftermath of the murder, Irene is still in charge. Paul's body is dumped in isolated bushland.
Took him off and threw him in the bush like a piece of rubbish.
To cover their tracks, the murderous gang destroys all the evidence, including Paul's motorbike.
One of the women stripped the bike, took it apart, and dispersed it around the countryside, threw it in, a bit in a dam here and a bit in a bin there.
Paul Snable has been missing for 2 weeks.
An air search of the immediate vicinity was undertaken, quite an extensive search, in the expectation or the possibility that he may have had a crash on his motorcycle.
But it is a chance find at the local garbage dump that arouses police suspicions.
Someone found a piece of the motorbike. Then someone else found another piece of the motorbike.
Police suspect foul play.
He was very much attached to his motorcycle. People couldn't understand why he would, do anything like this to his motorcycle.
Investigators start retracing Paul's steps back to the party.
Then they just started talking to all the conspirators one by one, piecing it together, working backwards, and eventually one of them cracked.
It's Ian Gillan who cracks first, incriminating the others. He is convicted of manslaughter. So too are Karen Randall and her sister Donna. The mastermind, Irene Maslin, is convicted of murder.
Very hard, very callous, no signs of remorse whatsoever, no expressions of regret.
Australian law at the time means Irene only receives 15 years in jail. Today, she's a free woman.
She's now out. What she's doing now, I have no idea. Whether she's influencing anyone else in diabolical deeds or has pulled her head in as just, living the quiet life, I wouldn't know. 15 years does not seem like enough for the premeditated and bizarre murder that she dreamt up and carried out.
London, England. In the 18th century, giving birth is a matter of life and death. The city's poor are lucky they have Elizabeth Brownrig to help them.
She was the official midwife to the to the poor in St. Dunstan.
She is highly respected for her work, but Elizabeth and her husband have a dark secret. The community trusts Elizabeth.
Hello, Mr. Jacobs, how are you?
The local church places orphans in her care.
Allow me to introduce your new apprentice, Miss Mary Mitchell.
Pleased to your acquaintance, ma'am.
They placed children as apprentices in households where they would be put to work.
Looks a bit scrawny, doesn't
In the
it?
1760s, it's a way of giving unwanted children a second chance.
A lot of kids were treated very well. They became members of the family. They became their children. Then there were the unlucky ones.
Right, you're prepared to work. Oh, yes, ma'am. Starting in here.
Away from prying eyes, Elizabeth can't be trusted. She treats her young servants like slaves.
To keep house, to clean, cook, scrub, all the kind of Cinderella kind of things that you might imagine. Only in this case, there was no fairy godmother.
You're too slow. You have to leave it till tomorrow. Get up!
For Elizabeth's charges, the ordeal is never ending. They're starved and forced to sleep on the basement floor.
Knowing that their victim is starving in the basement, looking for crumbs, searching for water, turned her on, and she probably slept very well.
The girls were being starved. They were being denied proper clothing. She seemed to have had a hair trigger, so whenever they did anything wrong, they were beaten or hit. In one notable instance, Mary Mitchell is accused of eating a few chestnuts that are in the son's room. Such a thing was considered theft and had to be punished severely. After this incident, she's beaten terribly. In another situation, one of the girls answers back, and Mrs. Brownrig slices her tongue with a pair of scissors.
When she can't take any more, one girl runs away.
Mary Jones escaped and had been taken back by the Foundling Hospital. There was someone looking out for Mary Jones.
At the orphanage, she recounts her horror story.
The people at the London Foundling Hospital listened, and they took her back and sent a reprimand to the Brownrigs, which was pretty much all the legal option that they had in terms of controlling the Brownrigs' use of their apprentices.
But Elizabeth is a pillar of respectability. Few believe Mary.
They are a respectable family of tradespeople in this parish, and so their word, or their lack of word, is just accepted. Her beatings were kind of unceasing. Everything she did was scrutinized.
This is not uncommon for women that abuse children, including mothers. They may have a slew of potential victims around them, but they focus on one to destroy.
1760s, London, England. Respected middle-class midwife Elizabeth Brownrig is hiding a dark side.
Although all of Elizabeth's charges were subjected to unimaginable abuse, she focused all her anger and sadism on one, Mary Clifford.
You're so much better than us, don't you? Yes, you do. You think that because of your pretty little looks, you're so much better than us. Well, nothing.
Inflicting pain excites Elizabeth.
With the bones you are made.
Sexual sadism is a condition in which an individual becomes aroused at the infliction of pain, emotional, physical, or sexual, on a helpless victim.
Mary's abandoned in the cellar with the pigs. Her body is covered in open, rotting wounds.
It would be very likely that an individual who'd been repetitively beaten, not fed well, and restrained could have gotten an infection to one of their wounds. We end up with infections of the lungs, pneumonia, infections of the brain, meningitis or encephalitis, and death follows very shortly thereafter.
A local baker spots Mary. She's barely clinging to life.
He raised the alarm.
Mrs. Brownrig.
Parish officers come to the house, and they demand that the Brownrigs present Mary Clifford.
Confronted by church authorities, the Brownrigs play dumb.
She was naked and badly beaten. Perhaps you saw our servant Mary Mitchell. She feeds the pigs.
Mr. Brownrig at first denies that she's there. Then he eventually brings out Mary Mitchell, and he says, "Here's the girl you're looking for."
Mary? Mary, are you all right, my love?
This is not Mary Clifford. The girl I told you about is in even worse condition.
The eagle-eyed baker sees right through their lie.
Mrs. Brownrig, where is Mary Clifford?
I said we don't have anyone of that name here.
Don't lie to me, Mrs. Brownrig. Where is Mary Clifford?
I can't pull her out of thin air. She's not here.
Brownrig, get out of my way.
I did not invite you into our house.
Finally, after a search of the whole house, they find her in the basement. She's very, very weak. She can't speak, but she's still alive, and she's removed to the parish poorhouse.
But the rescue comes too late. 4 days later, 14-year-old Mary Clifford dies from her horrific injuries. Police arrest Elizabeth and John Brownrig and their son, James. All three are charged with murder.
She insisted that the problem was not her, the problem was bad servants. These servants were so bad and so disrespectful and so lazy that only physical punishment could get them to do their work.
The thinking of the day determines who is found guilty.
Watching over servants is a woman's responsibility, and she alone is convicted.
The two males walk away scot-free. On September 13th, 1767, Elizabeth Brownrig is sentenced to death by public hanging.
Some of the people gathered to watch Elizabeth be executed shouted at her that they hoped her soul would burn in hell. I think we can count on that.
Elizabeth Brownrig, once admired for her generosity, is now remembered for monstrous behavior. The government makes an example of her by placing her remains on public display.
Her skeleton was quite a tourist attraction for many years. People were very drawn to this spectacle of this woman who took such pleasure in the abuse of children who'd been placed with her to care for.
She was the quintessential evil woman, And Elizabeth Brownrig's memory was seared into the working and laboring classes in London for well over 100 years.